Hey everybody, this is Shad Sullivan coming to you from the headwaters of Bitter Creek, Archer County, North Texas. We have to talk. State officials will be assisting to help identify potential alternative markets if a producer is unable to move animals, and if necessary, advise and assist on depopulation and disposal methods. Ladies and gentlemen, we are plowing under vegetable crops from coast to coast. We are euthanizing millions of chickens. We are aborting sows and burying feeder pigs. We are dumping milk by the hundreds of thousands of gallons, and now they are preparing us to depopulate the fat cattle ready to harvest because of a bottleneck created by the effects of COVID. This thing hasn't been created by COVID, but the effects of COVID and the logistics therein. We are in trouble. Our food supply is in trouble, and I am appealing to producers and consumers across the nation to start calling. Yesterday, the first shipment of imported beef from the country of Namibia hit the shores of the United States of America. And yet this morning they are telling us to prepare to euthanize harvest-ready cattle. Am I the only one that sees a problem in this? It is time we get the American people back to work. It is time we get money flowing. It is time we get food on the shelves. Because if you're not concerned about this food supply problem, you better be.
Shalom. I would like to give our honor, glory, and praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. I would like to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Salutations to all you sincere Akim, pushing this word out across the four corners of the world. Just another news update through the spirit, the power, and the vibration of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. And I have an article from naturalnews.com, and the title says, Engineered Famine. Oregon starts shutting down small farms to protect the people. And this article was published on March the 20th, 2024. And it says, small farmers are under attack in the state of Oregon, which has begun shutting down family farms throughout the state en masse under the guise of water conservation and groundwater protection. Yanesa TV, a project of Yanesa Amaranch, shared a roughly 20-minute video explaining what is going on in the Beaver State as bureaucrats erroneously dubbed small family farms as concentrated animal feeding operations, or CAFOs, in order to shut them down for the environment. The state of Oregon has effectively shut down small farms and market gardens on a large scale, and they're actually sending out cease and desist letters to farms, and they're using satellite technology to find their victims and send them these letters that say you can't operate. The rancher in the video below explains. Small farms aren't CAFOs, and CAFO is concentrated animal feeding operations. And that's where agricultural meat, dairy, or egg facilities where animals are kept and raised in confinement for a certain period of time. So it says, the rancher explains that there are two different laws that Oregon officials are using to conduct these shutdowns. One involves the state of Oregon's broadly vague definition of a CAFO, which reads in part as follows. The state of Oregon defines CAFOs as the concentrated feeding or holding of animals or poultry, including but not limited to horse, cattle, sheep, or swine feeding areas, dairy confinement areas, and poultry and egg production facilities where the surface has been prepared with concrete, rock, or fibrous material to support animals in wet weather. Based on this definition, a few acre homestead will pasture and say 2 milking cows and some chickens qualifies as a CAFO if it has any area on the property where rock or gravel is used as a pathway to get to a small barn or coop. The way that they have redefined CAFOs is going to impact nearly everybody, The rancher warns about Oregon's updated CAFO definition, which impacts his property as well. Even on our property, we don't have animals that are necessarily contained in one area. They are roaming on pastures, as they should. Back in January of this year, a lawsuit was filed on behalf of small family farms throughout Oregon, arguing that the definition of a CAFO is too broad and negatively impacts pretty much anyone who produces egg from backyard chickens, no matter the size of their property. The case was recently covered by National Review, explaining that Oregon's government joined forces with the large-scale dairy industry to oppress and tyrannize Oregon's small farmers. Remember, according to the book of Isaiah, the 14th chapter, it goes into about the king of Babylon. And in this sense, that's referring to the tabernacle of Esau, Edom, and more so these so-called globalists, these international bankers who are in authority by Yahweh Shai to cause this engineered famine. And that's why it's stated within Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter, how his soul, again, referring to the tabernacle of Esau, Edom, and more so the nobility of them, is not upright in them, and how they enlarge it, their desire as hell. And what's their ultimate desire? This NWO. So whether it be war, famine, or a financial collapse, every engineered so-called crisis is a cover-up story for a larger globalist crime or power grab. And within this article, they're doing it all in the guise of water conservation or groundwater protection. So again, linking up with Isaiah 14 verse 4 about the king of Babylon, and it goes on to say, how have the oppressor ceased, the golden city ceased? And that's referring to America, which is also known as Babylon the Great. So again, it says right here, the case was recently covered by National Review, explaining that Oregon's government joined forces with the large-scale dairy industry to oppress and tyrannize Oregon's small farmers. I'm going to jump on down, and it says right here, all Oregon groundwater, even on private property, considered public. Another thing Oregon farmers are having to deal with is the state's rules on water. The only water that farmers are legally allowed to collect in Oregon is rainwater. Everything else, including water from rivers and streams, and even groundwater on private property, is considered a public resource. Because of this rule, Oregon farmers are not even allowed to use water from their own private wells to irrigate their crops and hydrate their animals without a permit. Coupled with the CAFO rule, this one concerning water use is being abused in such a way as to make it prohibitive, if not impossible, for farmers to run their farms. This rule went into place back in 2021. The rancher explains about Oregon officials enacted the water rule, which just so happens to have happened at a time when everyone was being distracted and traumatized by the C-19 tyranny. It has slowly rolled out to the point where market gardeners on a half-acre of land are now receiving cease and desist orders saying, you can't water your gardens, figure out another way. And you would think by having all these golf courses that utilizes a lot of water and chemicals in order to keep it functioning, that would be their first source they would go to. But no, this is all about total control. As Aaron Russo stated when he had that interview with Alex Jones, when he was quoting from Nick Rockefeller. It's all about total control. These are all the plans and building structures of the higher ups of this society for this NWO. And that's why it says right here, the obvious goal in all of this is to concentrate even more power and control over the food market into the hands of just a wealthy few while depriving small farmers of their livelihoods and incomes. Not to mention their God-given right to grow, produce, consume, and yes, sell the fruit of their labor for subsistence. Be warned that if this kind of thing can happen in Oregon, it can happen everywhere. The tyranny usually starts in one area as a test case, and if the general public does not resist, it spreads like a virus elsewhere. And that's exactly how the man of sin, which is Esau Edom, operates within this world. Anything that he touches or promotes is likened unto a cancerous tumor that will spread and affect everything in its living conditions. And I was just doing some quick research, like Why are they targeting Oregon? And come to find out, Oregon plays a vital role within the agricultural world. And Oregon's agricultural industry contributes more than $8 billion to their state's economy every year. And also, Oregon is the #1 U.S. producer of cranberries, blackberries, raspberries, hazelnuts, Christmas trees, and the list goes on. So if these unfair regulations is happening to a great U.S. producer such as Oregon, then it's going to be like a domino effect upon the rest of the states. And I came across a comment that's regarding this rancher going into the ordeal that's happening within Oregon of how the state of Pennsylvania is doing an eminent domain on Amish land. And that term, eminent domain, it refers to the power of the government to take private property and convert it into public use. So like I stated earlier, whether it be war, a financial collapse, or famine, every engineered so-called crisis is only but a cover story for a larger globalist crime or power grab. Everything's done by design by the nobility of Esau Edom, who are known as the workers of iniquity. And that takes me right to the book of Psalm 64:2. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity. And they are classified within the scriptures as the secret counsel of the wicked. Think about within this day of time, like many years ago, they was known as the shadow government. But now through the spirit and the power of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai, due to biblical prophecy, the light is being shown upon these evil upper echelon Edomite families, and along with their diabolical plans for the world, which is this NWO, or this Great Reset, which is exactly why Klaus Schwab, who is the founder of the World Economic Forum, he stated how the pandemic represents a rare but narrow window of opportunity to reflect, to reimagine, and to reset our world, which is why they're getting rid of the old way of things, such as shutting down family farms. And now these different farms across America is being transitioned into multinational biotechnology corporations. And very soon, these farms across the world will be replaced by AI technology, because they're already coming out about drones and robots could replace field workers as farming goes high tech. So pretty soon, our so-called food will be cultivated and processed by drones and robots. And this is all initiating this fourth industrial revolution. So hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity, who with their tongue like a sword and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words. And that's by passing these unfair laws and regulations. And that takes me right to Isaiah 10:1. Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees and that write grievousness which they have prescribed. For example, Oregon started shutting down small farms to protect the people, or water conservation or groundwater protection, which is all done by design for a global engineered famine. And according to the prophecy within Ezekiel 5:16, the Lord stated through the prophet Ezekiel how he would increase the famine upon you and will break your staff of bread. And who is that main catalyst he's doing that through? His vessel of dishonor, Esau Edom. And that's why it says right here, Isaiah 10:5, O Assyrian, which are the modern day Edomites, more so the nobility of Esau Edom. The rod of my anger and the staff in their hand is my indignation. And again, the Lord is going to use the nobility of Esau Edom to break that staff of bread within spiritual Egypt. And that's referring to America. And to further prove that, verse 6, I will send him against a hypocritical nation, and against the people of my wrath will I give him a charge, to take the spoil and to take the prey and to tread them down like the mire of the streets. And this engineered food collapse will be on a great scale within America. And starvation will be the death of a lot of people within America. And that takes me right to 2 Esdras 15 verse 12. Egypt shall mourn. And again, this is referring to a spiritual Egypt, and that's referring to America. I just did a recent video called The American Struggle Part 4. And within that video, just look at the spirit of hopelessness. despair, grief, anxiety, perplexity that's upon those different Americans. And that's just by the nobility of Esau Edom gradually increasing the cost of living. So therefore, how much more when he takes the luxury and convenience of having food? These people within America are going to go berserk, and it's going to be anarchy and chaos within the different streets of America. So Egypt should mourn, and the foundation of it should be smitten with the plague and punishment that Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh should bring upon it. And one of those main plagues that the Heavenly Father Yahweh plagued ancient Egypt was pestilence, or the plague of the livestock. And as you should know, the livestock industry plays a very vital role within our livelihoods. So by shutting down these small farmers, that's also instituting a negative effect upon this American society. And that takes me to verse 13. They that till the ground should mourn, according to these farmers, for their seeds should fail through the blasting and hail and with a fearful constellation. And I came across an article earlier, and it was going into how more farmers within America are committing suicide in record numbers, like due to being in debt. And the way I think, like maybe a lot of these American farmers are not being in compliance to these new governmental regulations, guidelines, or laws. And now they're coming up dead, all in the name of suicide to the public. All right, so back within Psalm 64 and 5, they encourage themselves in an evil matter. They commune or lay in snares privately. They say, who should see them? And according to Proverbs 15 verse 3, it goes into how the eyes of the Lord are in every place. And that's referring to the angels who are ministering spirits. And they report everything, whether it be good or bad, upon the earth unto the throne of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh. That's the Most High's spiritual surveillance system. And by the nobility of Esau wants to imitate the Most High, he now has his artificial surveillance systems. Hence that phrase, big brother is watching you. So it's all about total control for these Edomite globalists. Verse 6, they search out iniquities, they accomplish a diligent search, both the inward thought of every one of them, and the heart is deep. And look how deep in wickedness Esau goes in achieving this NWO, or this great reset. They utilize all of their researchers, think tanks, scientists, engineers, and the list goes on, in order to bring forth these engineered so-called crises upon the world. And this article is definitely a testimony unto it. How they want to cut off the water and food supply, euthanizing thousands of livestock, pouring out hundreds of thousands of gallons of milk, and burning up all of these food processing plants, all in order to reset and control this world. So that concludes the lesson through the Spirit. Engineered famine. Oregon starts shutting down small farms to protect the people. And this will be a domino effect upon the rest of the states, especially the ones that play a significant role within the agricultural world. So with that, hopefully you all stay edified, you all stay strong, keep pushing forward. Shalom.